about to start the presentation. I've been I've been a bit awake for a rather long time, as well as a jet lag. I didn't sleep before I came over, so if I fall asleep by the end, somebody wake me up, please. I'm going to be talking about Arca Noae news, why it exists, who we are, what it's done so far, and when you can have the next max. This is me. I'm English. I've been working in IT all my career, starting as a mainframe operator on IBMs.
Yeah, a little trouble here, and I've got more volume or a mic or yeah.
We have a mic.
Do we have a mic over there?
Let's see it.
We're not the accent.
Hello.
No, everybody's don't understand, right? Okay. We'll find out if it works.
Likewise.
Hello.
That's working.
Hello.
Oh, it's working.
Hello. Yes, it works.
There you go.
You can hold it.
Stand over here. Okay, how about now? Anybody not hear me? Wave if you can't hear me.
A little more, yeah.
Yeah,
Closer, yeah.
I think that's about as loud as I can speak without my throat giving out because it's feeling a bit dodgy at the moment. Anyway, I'm Howard Winter, English, been in IT since it was called data processing back in the 70s, and started out as a mainframe operator, went through everything up to consultant, which meant anything they threw at me I had to do. I started using OS2 Warp 3 back in the middle 90s, with its 32 installation floppies. Everybody remember those? And I've been using it ever since for my normal daily use for anything that didn't need Windows. Sadly, there are still things that people have written just for Windows, but everything else, all the usual stuff, email, websites, all that sort of thing, I do on OS2. I was semi-retired or self-unemployed when I heard about Arca Noae and the fact that they were going to start developing a new OS2 version. And I found out about it from Lewis over a burger in Queens. I think it was Jackson Hole Burger.
Jackson Hole?
Yeah.
Right.
And then I was offered a job, basically. And since June of 2015, I've been doing third-party relations. I'm probably the only non-developer on the team. Basically, my job is to feel the outside world so the developers can get on with doing their stuff without interruptions. Why Arca Noae? Well, lots of installations out there, huge companies, some of them banks, insurance companies, process control equipment, all use OS2 because it's reliable. Not because it has a nice interface or anything like that, but because it works. And it's continued to work all that time, and they still use it. However, equipment wears out, has to be replaced, and we get people ring us up and say, we need all this new equipment, but we can't replace it with new because the new stuff doesn't work under OS2 Warp 3. So we're having to buy it second-hand on eBay. You'd be surprised how often that happens. Because OS2, even e-com station, has fallen behind modern hardware. And consequently, you can't run it on modern machines. So you have to buy old machines, and that's not necessarily a good thing. Because you may actually need a new machine for technical reasons, and we've got a problem. So, what's the solution? Creating new drivers, updating existing ones, and things designed to work with modern hardware. That's really what we started out looking at. Fixing current limitations, especially things like security. Nowadays, a lot of security standards have been superseded because the old ones don't work in all situations. There are hacks that are available to get past things like I think SSL3 is the most recent that's been deprecated that OS2 still uses. So we wanted to produce a new OS2 version which has all the latest technology that we can either create or get hold of ourselves and support it, because one of the problems has been lack of support. For the past few years there's not been many people out there who can support OS2, especially if the problem itself is with OS2. So Arca Noae will also support what we've done. The result is anybody who wants or needs to run OS2 can do so. And I think if I had to sum up Arca Noae in one sentence, that would be it. Who are we? The photos and text come from the people involved, so you can't blame me if it says something that we don't like. But anyway, David Azarevich, I think that's the pronunciation, thank you. Hardware designer, software developer, user and advocate of OS2 for all the years that it's been around. Uses OS2 computers for all of his development work, in his business and for his personal use. And personally, I think that's a terrific achievement. I can't do it. I have to use Windows for some things. David is an OS2 person through and through. One of the principals of Arca Noae, currently working on various projects as ACPI, Multimac, USB, UniOrg, JFS, and various other drivers. David is our driver king. If it's to do with drivers, he's the man who knows what to do, and he's doing it quite a lot. Alex Taylor, sadly not here today, he's at home in Japan. I think he's the youngest of the development part of the team. Software designer who's been using OS2 for 2 decades, specialises in interface design, internationalisation and fonts. He's basically our GUI person. He's the person we go to if we want to know if a particular look is a good one or not, and if it can be improved, he'll say so. He's actually designed fonts himself, but he will also design user interfaces of all types, and basically he's good at it. We always go to him if we need advice on that. Recently completed master's degree on the use of technology in globalising education. I haven't a clue what that means, I'm afraid. And he lives in Yokohama, Japan, but he's actually Canadian, so I presume he speaks at least 2 languages, a sort of English and Japanese. Stephen Levine, hiding over there somewhere. Been active in the computing industry for over 40 years. Common thing going on here. A lot of us have been in it for a long while. Held a variety of positions emphasising custom product development and support in both engineering and commercial environments. So he doesn't just write code, he does other stuff. Currently President and Chief Technical Officer of Stephen Levine and Associates. I think you can probably define what that means. And supposedly semi-retired. That's at least 2 of us in that situation. Using OS2 back since 1.2, worked with some of the early OS2-based industrial automation systems and continues to use it regularly since then. Active in a variety of Arca Noae and OS2 projects, including Blue Line product development. Member of the FM2 File Manager development team, intermittently supports the ports of a number of applications, including rsync, mtools, Tesseract, along with native applications such as OpenWhatCom, 4OS2, BMDLL, and whatever is interesting at the moment. It's common to most of us. We're interested in this stuff, we don't just do it as a job. Louis Rosenthal, he's probably noticed him here before. Network engineer, Novell experience. Whenever Novell comes up, Louis will be there standing the ground for it. Dating back to Netware 2A rather, in the late 80s. Actually, that's where my network came from originally. That's the first network I worked on a PS2 model 80. Okay, began with version 2, and in his use of OS2 and derivative operating systems has remained constant in the intervening years. So there's a theme going through all of this. We'll use it. Specialising in OS2 to Novell connectivity, network technology in general, communication protocols, as well as working as an accountant. I don't know quite how he gets all this into the day, but anyway. Louis serves as managing member of Arca Noae, as well as chief internal systems engineer responsible for IT infrastructure, mail and web services for the company. So when you go onto the Arca Noae website, his machine is the one you're talking to. Is that in Leesburg or
New York?
It's in New York, right. And as I say, he's the person who pulls it all together. Before I got this text, I had a placeholder that said, the cat herder. Because basically Lewis pulls the rest of us together, keeps us in line, tells us to sit on the naughty step when we go wrong, etc. Now we also have partners. That's not the only people involved. There are other companies and individuals who get involved. For example, Bitwise works in Austria, and they do ports of things like Firefox and OpenOffice. OpenOffice, yes, of course. eco software. The Russians are coming. They've produced lots of software of their own for OS2, and they're also either developing or tweaking versions of what they have for Arca Noae. So, for example, we've got a thing called Archiver, I think was the name we settled on, which is basically dealing with zip files and such, creating them, putting things in, taking them out, and so on. Not just zip, but also things like tar. Do you do tar?
Yeah, we do tar and 7-zip.
And DVD tools, which is going to be a thing for creating DVDs and CDs, burning them as the saying goes. NetLabs from Switzerland, so we're training all over here. And my mind's gone blank on what they do.
Lucid,
right, the PDF viewer. Yeah. And also some smaller bits that we've got them to do for us that are part of the system, but not whole chunks. FSys Software in the Netherlands. This is Jan van Dijk, a single guy who basically knows all there is to know about disk formats and how to deal with them. You saw it in Jeffrey's presentation earlier. We need it for all sorts of things in the firm, and bits of it are used in the Arca Noae software. Keith Merrington, from the Netherlands, but he's actually a Brit. He's doing the framework of the installer. The installer is obviously the biggest change from earlier versions because we can't pinch anybody else's because it's going to be different from what's gone before. And Voice, an international organisation of which there's at least 2 people in the room I think that represent it. They don't develop anything themselves, but they are advocates of OS2. They produce funding for developers to make things. PM Mail was one of theirs that they took over from the original author and funded development of it. It's the email software if anybody isn't aware. What have we been doing? Drivers and software subscription. This is our first product, and basically it's drivers and other software which are updated for modern technologies. So if you need a driver to replace something you've got that doesn't work anymore, or to run with something that you've recently bought, you can get the subscription, and with any luck it will be usable in that. Includes those things: ACPI, AHCI, JFS, basically they're for installing the system, and then USB, network, sound, graphics and printers for adding equipment to use once you've got it up and running. New versions of the various drivers and software are released as they're available, and it's an annual subscription for downloading. So basically you pay your money for a year, and during that year you can download anything that we release over that period. But then it doesn't run out at the end of the year, you can carry on using it forever. We would of course like you to renew the annual subscription, and we offer a discount if you do. But if you decide you've had enough, then the software you've downloaded will still work for as long as you want to use it. On that machine, of course, it's a per machine license. Oops. Wrong way. That's better. Snap. Most of you have probably heard of this. It's basically a suite of graphics drivers, and yeah, it's a very long history. It goes back. Its origins go back to DOS, which I think was Display Doctor.
Sci-Tech display.
Yeah, someone. So this is a very distant descendant of that. They stopped doing any more OS2 stuff a while ago, so basically we've now licensed it, and we can include it in our products and also update it and supply it independently. This will be a separate product. If you have a situation where you need to have a graphics driver that works with modern hardware and you don't need any of the rest of it, then you can get Snap on its own. We're improving it, especially in things like acceleration using recent graphics chips. It will work with pretty much any graphics system. However, if it hasn't got acceleration, it's dog slow. Dragging a screen, you drag the window and let go of it, and about several seconds later it pops up in the new place. It's painful to do, I've tried it. So with acceleration, it does what you expect. Arca Noae Package Manager, ANPM. It downloads and installs packages of software from repositories. Those of you who've used Linux or Android, other operating systems are available, will be able to see how this works. Basically, there are repositories online, and you connect your software to the repository and say, get me that. It brings it down, installs it. And it keeps track of what you have installed, because if you do it again, it will update what's already there. So if it's new, it will install it fresh. If it's already there, it will check what needs to be updated and replace those parts. It comes with free repositories defined, so that's our own Arca Noae free stuff, plus NetLabs I think is also on there. But you can add other, also free or subscription-based repositories to be able to download stuff that you've paid for as a subscription. For example, our software subscription. It uses RPM Young technology. Again, Linux people will know about this. But it's warp-in aware. That means that we're working on the way of having them linked together, where if you've installed something in warp-in, then ANPM knows about it. And if you then run ANPM and there's an update, it will deal with it as if it had gone in through ANPM in the first place. We may even add warp-in as a possibility for operating without that link, but that's down the road a bit. And it's free. So this particular software, the ANPM and the free repositories, you can nip back to the room, overload the hotel's internet connection. Blue Line. It was called Blue Line, I think it was David's invention of the name, during development, and as with a lot of things such as Merlin, which became Warp 4 when it was released, it will have a new name once it's released, and that is going to be ArcaOS, so we'll try and remember to use that name from now on. And that's how it's pronounced, not ArcaOS or ArcaOS, it's ArcaOS. It's a full OS2 implementation, so you start with a blank disk, run the thing, and you'll have OS2 up and running at the end. It will run any software that runs under earlier OS2 incarnations, yes, that's the word. Basically, if we can't do that, we've lost. So far, I haven't heard of any OS2 software that doesn't run under this. And it's the first question that most people ask us. I've got this Hokey 2000 software that I've been running on this machine for 15 years. Will it run under ArcaOS? And so far, yes is going to be the answer. As I say, if we can't do that, then we really are lost. So that's going to happen. And of course, it incorporates all the latest drivers and other technology, the security stuff, networking, and so on. We'll be able to install from a DVD. It wouldn't fit on a CD from quite some time ago, or a USB thumb drive. Maybe from over a network later once we've got that sorted, but that's a bit down the road again. The reason for thumb drive, of course, is that some modern laptops don't have an optical drive and don't have any way of adding one. So I'm not sure what Windows people do in that situation. Can be installed on bare metal or on virtual machines. Now, by bare metal, it doesn't have to start with a blank disk. As with all the other versions of OS2, it can coexist in partitions with other operating systems, as Jeffrey was saying earlier, he's doing with his machine. So it can be installed into a partition on its own. It boots and runs with nothing above it. Or you can put it on a virtual machine. Lewis mentioned VirtualBox earlier. So it would run as the guest operating system with a host running the machine hardware. Now I could spend all day talking about all the wonderful things we're adding into ArcaOS, but first of all I'll be stealing a lot of Lewis's thunder, and secondly I haven't got all day. So for now, that's enough to know about it, and those top 3 items are really the important part. It's got lots of exciting other things as well, things that look nice or act nicer than the current systems, but those 3 are the important ones. That'll be the telephone.
Good question.
When drivers and software subscription you can have now. It was released last year, and we've actually had our first annual renewals come through, so that's up and running, working, and I commend it to the house, as they say in the House of Commons. Snap soon. We don't really have a date for this, but it will be at some point in the nearish future. ANPM also now, and that's been around since early this year. As I say, you can actually go to the room and download it if you feel so inclined. This, I'm afraid, is the big disappointment because not yet. Arca Noae, ArcaOS 5 is going to be the name of it. 5 because it comes after Walk 4, and 5.0 will be the initial release. And I've got a story to tell, which involves good news and bad news. The good news: we had a large corporation who wanted us to develop networking and security software under OS 2. It was a big lot of work, and it was a handy thing to have. And so it's unfortunately, the bad news, delayed the development of ArcaOS. The good news again, we now have Kerberos 4 and other networking security software that we wouldn't have had otherwise, because it came out of this project. So the bad news, ArcaOS 5 now scheduled for the 31st of March. I've put the year as well because people will ask if Yes?
Is Snap part of the software subscription services?
Snap is not part of the software subscription services, but it would be part of ArcaOS. Yes, it's a separate subscription, if you like, a separate license. I think the need for it is quite small, and therefore it was thought to be best to have it as a separate thing rather than part of the general subscription, which would have to be dearer because we're paying for the license for Snap. So, I'll sum up. Why are we here? To enable OS 2 to continue as a viable operating system and improve it. Who are we? Dedicated bunch of talented and experienced developers. That's me. Oops. That's where it went wrong. What? Drivers and software subscription, Snap, ANPM, ArcaOS 5, other ancillary OS 2 software I haven't mentioned because it's a bit small and doesn't really warrant time on the board. But suffice to say there are other things that will be coming along, either as part of ArcaOS or as separate items in the software subscription. And consultancy. We get lots of people coming to us for help, and we'll find people who can help and send them to look after the problem. The thing I mentioned with the large corporations' security software, we also did consultancy so that they had a clear idea of how to do what we told them to do, basically. Yes. Hello, yes.
You talked about the ANPM and the subscription service. Is that going to be, how is that going to be incorporated into ArcaOS?
Good question. As far as I understand it, and somebody will correct me if I get this wrong, the repositories I mentioned, when you get your ArcaOS software, you'll get a link into the repository for the software that's covered. So you'll have ANPM installed, and you add on the ArcaOS repository. So then anything that's in there will then be picked up whenever you do an update.
And then do you then pick up a subscription in subsequent years?
There will be a separate maintenance and support subscription for ArcaOS, which is separate from the drivers and software subscription. Drivers and software.
It will not include them?
Okay, there will be some crossover. So in other words, ACPI is part of the drivers and software subscription service. So if you run OS 2, if you run Ecom Station, and you have a drivers and software subscription, you'll get the latest ACPI. If you get ArcaOS 5, and you get your support and maintenance agreement, so the next year your support and maintenance is current, an ACPI update will be included in that maintenance agreement. So some of those components will be the same between the two of them. However, if you have a software subscription for the drivers and software subscription service, those components are licensed for use on OS2 Ecom Station, not on ArcaOS. If you have ArcaOS, the licensing for the support and maintenance agreement is that when those components are included in that package, they're licensed for ArcaOS only. So if you have OS2 machines to support and you have ArcaOS machines, you need a subscription for the OS2 machine, you need a subscription for the ArcaOS. But there will be updates available, and ANPM will be able to, whatever packages are installable via ANPM will be installable for whichever one.
Will it come with ArcaOS?
Arca Noae Package Manager?
Yes.
Yes, it's part of the base install. Yeah, absolutely.
What about, like, let me take an example, Firefox. Like, I've recently tried to install that newer version a few times. It's like a nightmare of missing pieces, and I try to put them in, and I can't. Like, will that stuff be sort of smoothed out?
That's the plan, certainly.
So it'll come with a recent Firefox that actually works, and you don't have to install 1,600 DLLs and
No.
find a lot of other stuff.
And assuming we can get the Firefox repository into ANPM, you won't have the problem again.
Firefox will be available as an RPM installable component from Arca Noae Package Manager from the subscription repository. So, if you have a subscription for the drivers and software package, you'll be able to install and update Firefox through Arca Noae Package Manager.
It'll work.
It'll work when you download. All of the prerequisites will be installed with it, and that will take care of the disaster of installing the zip file and then that whole string of dependencies.
Right, that's what's happening.
ArcaOS 5 will ship with the then current version of Firefox on the ISO. So you install the operating system, you'll get a current browser.
And what about stuff like Qt? Will that be wrapped in with it? Qt4?
Qt is available through the NetLabs repository now, which you can install through Arca Noae Package Manager, and Qt4 is part of the base install with ArcaOS.
What about Java? Are there any plans to go up like to something more recent?
You want to answer that, or you want me
No,
to take that?
I'd rather you do because I'm not quite clear myself on that one.
Well, again,
maybe you're going to talk about it
some
later.
of the stuff isn't going to really be part of my presentation. Java isn't an Arca Noae project.
Right.
Java is a NetLabs project that is sponsored by Bitwise. Bitwise is working on Java 8. They're going to skip Java 7 and go straight to Java 8. It is coming. It's on the board. We don't know when it's going to be out there available. We realize that Java 6 is getting a little long in the tooth at this point.
And what about SWT? Have you seen that?
That's going to come along with the Java 8 development, is the SWT development. It's all sort of wrapped together.
Which maybe
Whichever
you could
developer,
use Eclipse, for example.
yes, Eclipse, modern versions of Smart SVN, Smart Git,
Right.
all that stuff that's dependent upon SWT. And likely the same developer working on Java 8 will do the SWT.
Yes, Jeffrey.
So I heard Firefox, and I felt very sad because this is a horrible browser on Windows, and I found a dandy little browser which I use now called AMelian, AMelian, which is small, fast, and it's right on the screen in front of you. You can turn off things one by one, images, Java, JavaScript, whatever, or turn them back on. It's right there in front of you. The problem is that eventually it gives up and you have to shut it down and start it up. So there's some problems there. Is there any alternative to the Monster or Firefox or ArcaOS?
There is a possibility of one, but I don't think we can talk about it at the moment.
What about Chrome? That's the source code to that is out there, isn't it?
Yeah, well, Chromium is the open source version of Google Chrome.
Right.
It requires some components that we don't have on OS 2 yet. I don't know when we're going to have them. I'll talk more about browsers in my ArcaOS presentation. Edgar, do you have Opera is not on all of them. That I can say.
Internet Explorer?
Yeah, and there are some Qt browsers, yeah. We'll talk about some of the browser stuff when I do my ArcaOS presentation. And ArcaOS will include a maintenance, a rescue and recovery environment that will be useful, as in you'll be able to actually get on the web with it and get resources and documentation you need to fix your system. So in order to do that, you have to have a working browser. So we've done quite a bit of research as far as what we can put on there that's lightweight enough that it's usable in that environment. And so there are options, and some of those options will be useful for everyday use. But the real solution to Firefox is CMON. Yeah, I mean, really, I use CMonkey almost exclusively instead of Firefox. It's like Firefox used to be when Firefox split off of CMonkey.
So no development then.
What about, like, I have a machine here with Ecom, whatever, 2.0. Like, will you be able to take this Arc Blue line and install it on top of the partition where you have your current install and have it come out working? You know what I mean? Like, it's a big headache. You have to install a new version and then somehow figure out how to get everything back.
Migration.
Exactly.
At the moment, I think he's saying that 5.0 won't have migration.
Okay.
We may have a separate product to do migration, but I'm not sure about that. Arca Updater.
Well, Arca Updater is sort of it's not really a migration utility, and it hasn't even fully fleshed out yet. But suffice it to say that ArcaOS 5 will be a straight install first. So sorry that you're going to have to go through that.
That's okay.
Pain of all that
I'm
stuff.
used to it.
I have
So,
to
like,
say
for
that-
example, I have DB2 installed, you know, and in order to use it, you got to get it out, reinstall it again, install all the fixed packs, break your boot because there's some screwy thing in it, and then meanwhile help you export it all the data so you can, you know, it's just a pain in the
I
neck.
understand. I have to admit, I've never done any sort of migration. All the installs I've done have always been onto an empty partition because I don't trust migrators, to be
Yeah,
honest.
well, I mean, I have too, but, you know, okay.
You
Fair
have a ballpark price yet for the March release?
We're not ready to release the prices yet, sorry.
Post-Brexit prices?
Yes, the bad news for me, of course, is I have to pay dollars, so it's getting more expensive for me every day.
How many digits?
I think we're probably talking 3, but that would be the commercial version. The personal version may be under, but I don't know. We can't release actual details yet because we haven't worked them out yet. We have various costs we need to cover, and obviously, nearer the date, we can get that accurate. Stephen, did you have a question?
Yeah, one thing I was going to say to David is you might want, when you get ready to do that install, you might want to talk to us about all the support, because there are ways to get into in without doing a full install. Because it really doesn't have a lot of WPS information. It's just paths and stuff like that.
Right.
If you know it's set up, it's pretty straightforward to
Just migrate it over.
yeah, and say do all the text packs and all that sort of stuff.
Anybody
Probably
else?
faster to learn that than before we install.
No more questions?
Yes, on the chat they were asking if QS init loader will be included on ArcaOS.
Not decided yet. We're looking at it, but we don't know yet if we're going to use that or something else.
Okay. Also, Snap is going to be included on the ArcaOS.
On ArcaOS, yes.
Okay.
What's with the other one, what's it called? I forget the name of it.
Panorama.
Yeah. Is that like a product that's just what it is now and it's not being developed, or is it being?
Panorama is being actively
It's
maintained.
improved, yeah?
Yeah, and it will be included in ArcaOS. It's the default video drive.
Right. I mean,
It's
can
not
they
really a
benefit
drive.
from each other, those two things, or?
There's
Or are they
some
two different?
technology from Panorama of which Snap is the beneficiary.
Uh-huh. Okay. To speed up what he described, for example.
Okay, I actually. Oh, sorry, Karen.
On March 31st, where will I go to purchase ArcaOS 5?
If you have a preferred reseller, like Blonde Guy Computers, you can go to Blonde Guy Computers, or you can go to ArcaNoae.com, and right from our store you'll be able to buy.
IBM.com.
Once they get preferred customer, preferred business.
Yeah, they sign on as a business partner, right?
Yes, if you want to buy 100,000 copies, then IBM will probably talk to you. Maybe. Anybody else?
Yes, there are questions about UniOut, if it's going to be updated and if it's going to be included on ArcaOS.
Yes, UniOrd is being updated as we speak, maybe, and it will certainly be included.
I can only get picky on that one. Would there be any support for MIDI in any possible way?
Support for MIDI in UniOrd? No idea. David, any ideas?
I don't know.
No, sorry, I can't answer that one now. At the moment, let's say it's unlikely, but we don't know.
If there was support for one of those, serial adapter thingies that just the support, that would be fine. But because there's a
I'm
whole
afraid
world of hardware out there that you can't access.
Yeah, I'm afraid that particular one was a definite maybe. Can't answer now. Sorry. I have two questions of my own actually. First of all, Lewis, where did the name come from? Arca Noae.
Arca Noae.
Latin, came from Latin.
It is Latin, yeah. For those who don't know, it's Noah's Ark in Latin, and it's also the name of a shell, a seashell. But
You know something? The name was sort of, it just kind of showed up. Yeah, that's really what it was. No.
I thought some
Well,
really
one of the
big head
reasons
guy.
we decided to do Phoenix too.
What was that?
We couldn't do Phoenix too, we figured we have copyright problems.
Well, that's like the Raspberry Pi. They said it was because they run out of other fruit.
There you go. I mean, it sort of came up because we ran out of ideas for other names.
I actually have some
ArcaOS
Raspberry
2.8.
Pis at home. I use SSH in OS2 to access them because they don't have their own screens and keyboards. They just sit there on the network, and OS2's SSH works nicely. Final question: who doesn't like chocolate? That's good. Not going to be disappointed. I brought along a few treats for England. Some chocolate mini rolls. Gyros, which is a miscellany of various chocolate sweets. Which
Is this
I'll put-
Halloween candy left over?
I'll put-
That's what we all have. Yeah.
I'll put these at the back. These are a reward for sitting through my presentation. Thank you very much.